Good evening, you patently evil lot. How we all doing? I am Chris, and I am joined with someone tonight to help me dissect, unpack, whatever you want to call it, everything in episode 7 of Rings of Power tonight. Of course, it is another Friday. We're here to talk all things Middle-earth, and conveniently, I'm joined with everything in Middle-earth. So hopefully should be of a lot of help to me tonight to help get through this absolute shit show of an episode tonight. Again, another one. We're one away from the finale right now. Yeah, it's everything in Middle-earth. How are you doing tonight, man?
Good afternoon. I am loving life and I am loving the Rings of Power. It is amazing. Oh, the pacing, terrific. The
It's
acting.
exquisite.
Oh, you know what? I agree with, is it IGN? 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Let's
Best
just talk
series
about that for a
going.
second. Episode 6, they called a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Just think about that for a second. I mean, IGN, like, we know what they're like with reviewing stuff, but Christ almighty. Episode 6? Oh, boy. But yeah, no, it's great to have you, man. I actually feel really bad. So right before we went live, you told me actually that you've watched this episode twice to prepare for tonight. Absolute trooper. So you know what? You have absolutely earned your stripes to be on the live stream tonight. I've only watched it once because I'm not wasting another hour and 15 minutes of my life watching this a second time, but I do appreciate the effort, my friends. So thank you. Wow, already we've got some comments coming in. Echoing our sentiments, I'm absolutely sure. We've got Will, Lord Oakenshield himself. Fuck this series. Fuck it.
I've wasted 2 hours.
Yeah. I think we're in. Are we still in sync? By the way, are we? Oh, I think there might be a bit of a delay, my friend. We've been having some technical issues, so hopefully we're going to work through it. But I think we might have a slight bit of a delay, but hopefully we can get through it. We've got Nikki as well, who says, I am actually enjoying it. Cringe content is just plain fun. I was actually just mentioning that to everything in Middle-earth. I was saying, in a weird masochistic way, I'm actually going to be really sad when this finishes next week. Oh, I think we might have lost it. This might happen, guys, throughout the night. So I'll do my best to continue, but we'll definitely get his opinions across as well. Yeah, this is what I was saying. Next week, it's the finale, and there's going to be a Middle-earth vacuum on the channel until like the end of the year. And it's going to be kind of upsetting because although this is just an absolute slap in the face, a spit in the face to everything J.R.R. Tolkien related in that man's legacy and the world that he created, I'm actually going to kind of miss talking about this thing. Hopefully we've got everything in Middle-earth back.
I apologize for that. The internet is about as steady as this show. It is amazing.
You were kind of you were mentioning beforehand that we think it's Amazon finally has found my YouTube channel and is hacking into it because it doesn't want us spreading the hate on this show.
Yeah, you're just a troll, you know, and we don't like trolls.
Yeah, no.
You know, an honest opinion or a different opinion is classified as being a troll. So,
well, that's what I mean. We're quote patently evil. You know, my intro. We're apparently all the people that have criticism against this show, patently evil. That's from the showrunner's own mouth. It's like, well, how about you not slag your fans off and actually produce content that will appeal and be good and well received by the fans? How about that? Is that a wild thing to suggest? I'm not sure.
Can you imagine in any other type of job, you slag off your customer? Like, imagine you go into a shop and you're like, oh, this fruit, it's rotten. It's not great. I want a refund. And you go, you know what? You're just a hateful bunch of trolls. That fruit there, even though you've got evidence, that isn't rotten. You're rotten. That's what it feels like.
I think we need not Gandalf to magically resurrect the fruit, don't we? In this analogy right now, like in the episode. Oh, we've got a lot to talk about. There's so much shit. Yeah, what happened to the customer is always right. I have worked in retail. One of my jobs is working retail, and I can honestly say that the customer not always is right, but a lot of the time, you know, it's, you know, don't be hateful of your fan base because we're the ones watching the episodes and, you know, keeping your food on the table. Nikki Cunningham says, Guy Ladbro taking Sauron to Lindon or Eregion. I wanted to bring this up, actually, and your thumbnail, Everything in Middle-earth, might be a good reference point, actually, because you've got the map in front of us. We can see how far geographical distance is. Not that it matters to the showrunners in this show, but a fun little nugget of information right now, based on the ending of this show. So, not Sauron, Halbrand, is mortally wounded, and his wound is festering. And they're heading back to either Eregion or Lindon. I think on this map it's Eregion. Look how far on the map they've got to travel back to Eregion. So they're there in Mordor, right? Because it's not the Southlands anymore. It's Mordor, which is conveniently told to us through a very nice little title card in the top left of the screen. We've got Taralenian as well. Hello, like this guy. I don't know if you've seen him on the previous streams. Is a Tolkien encyclopedia. He is my reference point. If I make a point that's wrong, he's there with the direct quote from Tolkien himself. So pleased to see you here, man. Thank you for tuning in again. Seems to be Eregion. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to get to everyone's comments, but yeah, I'm just going to pass over to you, dude. If you just want to tell people where they can find your channel and kind of what you got going on the channel at the moment, what you got planned. Oh no.
Yeah, so I run a cheeky Lord of the Rings channel called Everything in Middle-earth. Currently uploading the Return of the King appendices, and hopefully going to try get the Two Towers behind the scenes. So I'm uploading all those parts. Nice. I'm getting done by copyright, but I don't care because, you know, you guys deserve to watch great content. And the Return of the King behind the scenes is up there with some amazing viewing. Currently doing memes from this great show, which I've had a couple of death threats.
Wow, really?
But it's all fun and games. And then hopefully she'll be doing episode reviews of this show.
Oh, no. I think we've lost him again. As I said, this is going to periodically happen. It's a shame that the internet's not working well for him tonight, but he will be back. Also, if you haven't done so already, give him a follow on Twitter as well. So it's EI Middle Earth. So, you know, great channel, good Tolkien content. And as I said, as he just said, we need it more than ever in these times of the Rings of Power. So if anything, if people are, you know, if it's making people go back and watching the appendices or even just the films, going back to the books, reading Tolkien, it's all the more worth it. So yeah, definitely go and check out his channel because we need good Tolkien content at this point. Okay, I think he's back. Are we good?
Yeah, I do apologize for this.
It's fine. It's fine. We'll work through it.
I think if it does cut out again, I'm going to try on my phone because I'm currently on my laptop. But I was actually going to ask you, Chris, actually, because I know you love your Tolkien.
I don't know what possibly gave you that impression, but yes,
so
yes, I do.
I do. Want to make... I want to make more history videos. And I was wondering if you would like to be a part of that. It seems that you are a big Tolkien fan, and I've stumbled upon your channel recently and seen how much you love it. And I think it'll be great to bring a community of Lord of the Rings fans together, because I think that's what we need to do. So the offer's always there. If you want be part of the channel, creating videos, then you can go ahead and do that, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be down for that. I love talking Lord of the Rings, in case you couldn't tell already. It's my life's blood. I will say I'm not as learned as some channels like Men of the West or Nerd of the Rings, but I can do my homework. I can do my research because I want to give you guys quality and accurate Tolkien content. So yeah, that'd be nice to do, actually. As I said, like after next week, we're going to have a bit of a Tolkien void on the channel. And I'm going to miss talking about it, whether it's hating on Rings of Power, whether it's defending and just talking good quality Tolkien content. So yeah, I appreciate that offer, man. I'd absolutely be down with that. And obviously we can hash out the fine details with that as well. Housekeeping for me before we dive into this episode. Please do consider subscribing to my channel for more movie reviews, television reviews, discussions, and live streams just like this one. At the end of the video, if you guys stick around, I am going to be announcing what I've got coming out next week. We'll be saying goodbye to some retrospectives and to some series, included but not limited to the Rings of Power itself. But also I'm going to be starting some new content next week, which is going to take us into the December months. So there's a lot planned on the channel, so stick around to the end for more updates on that. And while you're at it, give me a follow on Twitter as well. You can find me at Hobbit Fan Editor. I'll post all the times, all the details. And in fact, if you've already followed me on Twitter, you've probably already seen a sneak peek of some content of a retrospective that I've got planned coming out next weekend. So yeah, that's the shameless plug out of the way. And of course, the people that we've already got in the live chat right now, I'm sure you're going to do it anyway. Let me know your thoughts on the Rings of Power, particularly this episode. We're going to be talking about every single scene. We've taken notes. We're ready to lay down the smackdown on this episode, and it's going to be great. Oh, hang on. Let me just remove and add to stream and unmute. Can't unmute your guests because they've... Oh, are we good? Are we good? Fingers crossed. I'm just going to leave that on screen for a second. Hopefully be back in a second. I'm going to dip to your guys' comments real quick before we actually dive into the episode itself. Lord, let me just take that off the bottom of the screen. There we go. Lord Oakenshield said, as I feared, they chose to show the awakening of Durin's Bane in the series, although it's supposed to happen during the Third Age, during the reign of King Durin VI. Yeah, they're a bit premature, aren't they? Durin the Third and Durin the Fourth are still alive right now, with no sign of Durin the Fifth and Durin the Sixth on the way, unless I guess one of Prince Durin's sons is Durin the Fifth, because clearly that's how the lineage of the Durins works in this show at the moment. It's just, hey, if you've got a son, you know, and that actually made me think, is this meant to be the Durin, you know, the reincarnation of Durin the First that passes down from generation to generation, reincarnated in the form of a dwarf each time? But apparently, no, that's not how the Durins work in this show. It's entirely just if you're born, if you're the heir, you're also called Durin, and that's how it works. So I knew that Durin's Bane was going to show up because obviously we got the trailer. It's just a shameless nostalgia grab, isn't it? It's just, oh, people know what the Balrog is. People think the Balrog's cool. Let's get that in the trailer. That's going to get asses in seats to watch the episode. And I'm sorry, if you're a Tolkien fan, that shit doesn't fly. As cool as the Balrogs are, and they are cool, it's just a complete... I mean, the timeline is just absolutely in disrepair at this point. I don't know how you can even begin to qualify patching this together.
It's an absolute mess. I mean, last episode, the Númenóreans took, 10 minutes to get over from Númenor to the south?
2,000 miles, by the way. 2,000 miles to get there, and they did it in maybe a couple of hours.
And when you think about that, Galadriel was willing to swim that distance. Yeah.
The best bit as well is the fact that it highlights that distance as well, because you know when it does like the zooming into like a different part of the map, it shows you how big the Sundering Sea is when it goes over to the mainland. So I mean, that just highlights the absurdity of it even more, doesn't it? It's just absolute nonsense. Just the complete disregard for geographical distance in this, and how it split the narrative as well. How something that should take weeks, if not months, like the Númenórean sailing and then marching across Middle-earth, but then we'll cut to another storyline, and that storyline's picking up like a matter of minutes after we last left it. So, I mean, is it even worth trying to unpack this thing? Because it's just, if the showrunners don't give a shit, then why should we, you know?
It's true. They have a trope of, instead of, you know, going into detail in a scene, which they don't, like you said, they cut away and they just expect you to go, okay, that's happened. Let's move on.
Yeah.
I feel like that's their attitude at this point. And you look about the time that has passed between when they arrived. They had time to set up camp before they attacked the orcs who were attacking the Southlanders. There was a shit ton of time. They set up a full camp. So they had to take all those horses from those tiny boats, which I don't get how they fit all them on. So all the army had to get off. All the horses had to get off. All the materials and resources. Then they had to build the camps. And then ride across and just get in time to rescue them. I mean, it's perfect timing. If someone,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, the Númenóreans, who are revered as horse cavalry combatants in, even their swords as well. This is a really nerdy point, but the fact they've got horses on the pommels. I remember when they released the character posters, where it was like hands holding an apple, or it was, like the close-up of the dagger and stuff like that. And we saw a sword that had the horse on the pommel. And I remember it saying, I think in the marketing, we're going to see Khazad-dûm in its heyday, we're going to see Númenor, and we're going to see the origins of men in what would eventually become the lands of Rohan. And I thought, oh, cool. We might be getting, these are clearly going to be Rohirrim with the horse motif that we've come to know. No, those are Númenórean swords, because they really like horses, which is very evident in this episode, actually.
They are definitely not a seafaring race.
Oh,
they
no, absolutely.
It's not as if they worship the sea god. They love horses. It's
just really like horses, yeah. To your point about how could they get them all on the ships, on 3 ships, by the way. Well, we find out that there's only a meager 300 of them. I mean, it works for the Spartans, I guess. If you watch that film, 300 can do absolute wonders. But in reality, against a whole host of orcs in the Southlands, I don't know what 300 soldiers are going to do, especially when those soldiers are made up of wimpy teenage guys and women who aren't meant to do battle at this point in Middle-earth. They're not Owing, they're not shield maidens.
But I'll tell you what it is, Chris. It's a masterpiece.
Oh, that's 10 out of 10 masterpiece, yeah. In fact, I think
if I want to kill someone stealthily, I will run and scream and stab him in the foot.
Yeah.
Stabs him. Oh, I wish
Stealth
I joined you last week, because that episode got me angry.
Every episode gets me angry, but it's kind of a playful anger now, because it's like, oh, they're really trying. That's really cute. That's adorable that they're trying. That they think this is quality content that they're putting out, and there's not even a least bit of self-referential. They actually think this is golden. They think this is the novel that Tolkien never wrote, guys. This is in fact, I think 10 out of 10. I think that's too small a number. I would go 11 out of 10. I really think it is just truly life-changing.
I think it's the best piece of media I've ever seen, story-wise, not even visually. The writing's beautiful. I mean, I connect to all the characters. On a serious note, there's about 5 likable characters, if that.
Who are the 5? Okay, so Prince Durin.
Yeah.
King Durin.
Yeah. I like
Disa's kind of enjoyable, although obviously it's law breaking, but I don't mind Disa. She's at least entertained. When it cuts to the dwarves, I'm like, this is all wrong, but I'm not going to hate my life for at least a couple of minutes right now.
Yeah, I agree on that. At least it's entertaining. At least there's something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 3 that I can think of.
Elendil's pretty... Well, the actor who plays Elendil's pretty cool, even if they do butcher the character.
Yeah, although that crying scene
so
did make me laugh.
I think they were trying to emulate maybe the King Theoden, no parent should have to bury their child moment. But why pick we're going to be getting to this when we get to it in order, but why pick Isildur? Are they really trying to fool the audience and think, oh, maybe he's dead? If we're fans of Lord of the Rings, we know what Isildur eventually goes on to do. So there's no dramatic tension there at all. What's the point? What's the point in that fake out?
My brother, he doesn't know the lore of the Lord of the Rings, but he's seen the film, so he knows Isildur takes a ring and cuts Sauron's fingers off. He said, and I would not be surprised if it happens, if they change the law and you have Galadriel fighting Sauron, and she's the one who cuts his
Oh
fingers off,
no, could you imagine?
I would not be surprised. I think she's definitely going to have a fight scene with him.
Oh god, that's going to happen.
For
God, you're
sure.
right.
And
yeah, it's going to happen.
You know it was going to happen, and you know it's going to be close. It's going to be a close battle.
The one character that you wish would get fucking backhanded with Sauron's mace is Galadriel. Like it's
yeah.
God, let's not talk about such horrible things, because it's going to happen.
Get into the start of this beautiful episode.
Let's do it. Guys, I'm going to get to all of your comments. We'll kind of like chip in and out of the comments, because there's a lot of ones that I want to break up, but we also do need to get to the episode proper, and we're past 20 minutes in. So the first note that I have, and obviously we can compare notes, we'll take it in turns. Off to a great start. Capital letters right now. How the fuck did Galadriel survive a pyroclastic flow to the face? She is surrounded by complete and utter desolation. There is flaming livestock. There is completely disintegrated buildings, which we saw at the end last time. When the blast hit these buildings, it just totally annihilated them. People dead and dying and burnt and scalded. She took it to the face like a chat. Oh, God, that's out of context. If people are just signing into the video now. Oh, God, I need to get my mind out of the gutter. But yeah, I guess it's that elven blood, right? She can just... Is she like a Targaryen? Is she like Daenerys Targaryen and can just survive scalding hot temperatures of a pyroclastic flow? The level of plot armor and character armor in this episode is just absolutely absurd. Later on, we see Bronwyn completely unscathed, not even a single hair on her head singed or anything like that.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was thinking, although it's not even just Galadriel who survived. There's a ton of survivors. We only see, I think it's about 3 people who have burns, severe burns. No one's got singed hair. No one's got any sort of burns. The only time the Queen gets burnt is when, the pieces of, is it amber, go into her eyes, but then her eyes aren't burned. Yeah. It's just her cheeks. There's no injuries to anyone.
It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah,
they've just been hit by between 200 and 700 degrees Celsius wave, and no one's burnt. No one's injured. There's no scabs. There's nothing. When you see Galadriel in this opening scene, it's as if she's just been rugby tackled, and she wakes up, and you're meant to go, oh, okay, that just knocked her down. And by the way, she's in metal armor. She would have been cooking. Yes. All of these would have been cooking.
Sticking a fork in her, she's done, Yeah, she just kind of gets up, just like dusts herself, pats herself down, and be like, yep, okay, let's kill some orcs, like I'm ready. Not to mention Theo as well, the kid who can't act to save his life. He's fine. He conveniently hid behind a well-placed wooden cart, and just because that's how heat works. You just hide behind wood, and you're absolutely you're absolutely fine. If only the people of Pompeii tried that when Vesuvius erupted back in the day. Maybe they'd still be here today, right?
They should have just stood there and
Oh yeah, just walk up to it. You're fine.
The thing is, though, you look at the surroundings, and it's been desolated.
How many miles radius have been desolated, by the way? Because there is like volcanic rock that's crash landing where the fucking Harfoots migrate.
Yeah.
It's long distance. Like, this is far reaching. I mean, it's formed the lands of Mordor, which is massive. And people were like, Galadriel and co were at the fucking epicenter of this thing. And it's just, it's so, I mean, it's just laughable, but I don't know. Hundreds of people would have watched this and okayed this and quality checked this. Not a single moment where one of the writers or one of the editors or the director was like, well, hang on, this is like slightly ridiculous, even for the story we're telling. I just, I don't understand it. But you know,
I hear
Arondir absolutely fine.
fine.
You know,
Everything,
Halbrand,
everyone's
Elendil,
fine.
Miriel, oh, she's blinded, but these would have all been evaporated, like just absolutely torn
Well,
apart instantly.
if they weren't evaporated, they sure would have suffocated.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's you mentioned that as well. Like, no one's coughing, no one's acting like there's just no breathable air, which there wouldn't be,
no,
you know, in a massive ash cloud, especially in the epicenter. It's
I turned on the subtitles for the second viewing, which I know I had to watch it again, another hour wasted. And on the subtitles, it says Galadriel breathing heavily. I'm like, she isn't. She's breathing normally. No one's
yeah.
breathing heavily. The only time someone breathes heavily is when a Isildur goes into that burning building. Why does he start breathing heavily then? He's already surrounded by smoke and ash that will clog his lungs.
So I mean, there's just no suspension of disbelief at all. Like, and you know, some people who defend this show will probably go, "Oh, well, this is a show about trolls and dragons and giant eagles, and you're going to have a problem about this." It's like, but things mean. I always hate that argument, and you see it crop up every now and then, and it's just things mean things. You know, if you stab a human in the face, you know, stab, twist, gut. You know, there's none of that. None of that's gone down, has it? So they're not heeding Galadriel's wonderful combat lessons at this point. People will die. You know, if a volcanic eruption, if you drop someone into lava, they will die. That's just the way it goes. But it's just the simple things, isn't it? It's really. I love this comment right here as well. Tartalinia Moronway says the always well bathed Bronwyn. Yeah, she's got to look her Sunday best, hasn't she? She's got a, you know,
she's got her makeup on. She's looking good. She took 2 arrows last episode, yet only took 1 out.
Yeah, so quite
so much blood. You know, she's been scorched by the pyroclimatic flow, but you know what? She's looking good in that blue dress.
She's looking amazing. Yeah, hell yeah. Galadriel, you know, not a single hair on her head singed. Yeah, she's looking mighty fine. The people that, of course, do die. The infinitely memorable Valandil. Sure.
I'm not
would you miss him?
Joking. I didn't know his name.
Neither did I. I had to get it from the subtitles.
Yeah, I was literally half these people, like, you know, the mate who scored Flesh. I'm like, who is he? What's his name? And they play it off as if you're meant to feel so sorry for that character dying. We spent, a minute with him on screen.
Yeah.
And all we've established is that he's Isildur's friend, and that's it. How am I meant to feel pity for him? I don't care.
This show has just made me completely side with the villains. Like, when all this was going down, I was like, "Oh, are the orcs okay? Is Adar okay? Let's get back to those characters." Like, at the end, it's like, "Oh, thank God they're still safe. They're fine." I'm rooting for the bad guys on this one. I'm on Team Halbrand, all the way on this. So,
I mean,
yeah.
If you would have compared a Hitler quote to Galadriel's quote last episode about murdering all the race, I think if you lined them up together, it would be quite hard to pick who said what. And
her motivations in this episode are completely all over the place. There's a quote that I've written down. I'll get to it once we get to that scene, but just keep that in mind of that last week's scene where she confesses to Adar that she just wants to commit mass genocide on an entire race in Middle-earth and love every second of it.
Whilst he watches.
Yeah. Our protagonist, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I know that, you know, Adar and the orcs have done some despicable shit this series, but shit, I don't even think they've been as bad as Galadriel.
It comes to
at least they're honest.
He put his argument like, you know, we're beings, we have the right to live.
Justice
and
for
you're kind
orcs,
of nodding along. You're kind of like, yeah, he's got a point there.
Mm.
And then everything she says, it's just like, it's like about to kill someone. What was it? Don't quench your thirst with seawater.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
The next time I'm getting mugged, I'm going to say that to someone. Jesus.
Yeah, it's like her whole motive has been, you know, to avenge her brother. Bear that in mind as well, by the way. Store that little factoid away for later. We will be coming back to that, I assure you. her whole motive from episode 1 has been hell-bent on vengeance. And then, yeah, she's like, oh, Halbrand, I know you want vengeance, but you cannot quench your thirst with seawater. And it's just more of that verbose, artsy-fartsy dialogue, and it's you think they're being intellectual, and it's just absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Let's go to some of the comments right here. Just going back to some of the earlier ones. Nikki says, I can feel the patently evil coursing through my veins. It brings me power, gives me focus. It brings me power, gives me focus. I appreciate the Star Wars quote right there. Let the hate flow through you, because it's certainly flowing through us tonight. Lord Oakenshield, this show's got to be a fucking joke. I don't understand how people can call themselves Tolkien fans and love this crap. Well, I mean, the ones that do are the ones that got a very nice, all expenses paid for trip to London to go and see the first 2 episodes. You know the channels.
Interviews.
And the actors' interviews. Yes, the actors' interviews.
Lord Oakenshield, I think you're wrong there. This show is not a joke. It is a masterpiece.
It's high art. Tolkien wishes he could write this well.
Yes. Yes. What's his name? Patrick McKay. Tolkien's got nothing on him.
Yeah, he got shit on Tolkien. Durthang1000 says, this episode had some of the best moments if you accept that each scene would not follow on logically from the last, e.g. Halbrand deathbed to galloping on a horse. I mean, I have yet to see a good moment in this show. There's some that you kind of go, that character doesn't want to make me gouge my eyes out, or that's about it. That's about as much as I got. Or occasionally it's just like, oh, doesn't New Zealand look lovely? That's about as much as I've had so far, in all honesty, with this show.
I don't even think the music's been...
No.
It's great.
It's been terrible. And I love Bear McCreary, like his soundtrack to God of War. I mean, he's done a whole bunch of films. He's a fantastic composer. Nothing is memorable. I think the only one that stood out to me at the time was the one that played when Elrond was being led into Khazad-dûm. And I swear to God, that song hasn't got a reprise. I thought that was going to be like the main Dwarven Khazad-dûm anthem, if you will. And it's just, yeah. Taralinian Moranway says, Galadriel can swim that distance, but Amroth drowns within sight of the shores of Belfalas. Yeah, it's the way it goes, you know. It's because he's not a woman, so, only, who run the world girls in this series. So watch out, men. This is how it's done.
Oh yeah, who elected Bronwyn as leader, by the way?
Herself, apparently, because that's how all stunning leadership in our human history's gone down well, hasn't it? Someone asserting themselves leader.
She asserts herself as leader, is being backed by an elf, which the villagers don't like and are suspicious of, and this is further annoyance from the previous episodes, but she says we'll fight against the evil, then says we're not going to, let's join them. I'm sorry, I'm diverting it.
No, if you remember that quote from a couple of episodes ago where I don't know if it was like the old guy who's like, have you heard of Sauron? I don't know if it was him or if it was like another old guy in the village. And he said, like, who elected you leader? And she was like, you all did when you all agreed to follow me to this tower. I'm like,
I don't think
you suggested that you go to a tower. That doesn't give you the divine right to be the leader of this entire village just because you suggested they move somewhere else. It's not how leadership works, at least not in a, I love democracy. There's another Star Wars quote for you, Nikki. I love democracy.
I do love how they abandon the high ground.
Yeah, they've got an actual fortress castle that they could defend, and it's like, no, we make our stand at the village. That's a really good place to fight. Like, no, it isn't.
None of this would have happened if Arondir didn't hide the blade in his house. I mean, people would have seen him walk into the house with the blade and walk out without it.
He had the perfect opportunity to pot shot Adar, who was first one into the castle last episode, and just sauntered in, not a care in the world, not defended at all. Arondir's a crack shot. We know he is because he just, like Legolas one-shots that tower, which apparently one arrow. Like, has that just been held together by a rope for decades? For hundreds of years, you just sever that rope and the whole structure comes down. It's like a swaying tower of Jenga, isn't it? Just held together by a rope. It's a good fortified position. The orcs are coming up a very narrow causeway, so you can sort of like channel them through the hot gates and just take them out. No, the village is much better to defend. Oh boy. That's last episode. Anyway, we need to get back to this one. Why don't you talk about Isildur's supposed death? Because I'd say that's probably the next scene.
Right, let me pull it up. So so we'll go from when we first see Isildur and he's trying to lift his lift the roof up off his mate who doesn't have any broken bones or anything. So he tries to lift up the roof and he's struggling, and the Queen Regent sees that he's struggling and she goes to help him. When you
she's like, do you even lift, bro? And just like starts deadlifting this timber up.
She just deadlifts it and drags that guy out, who will be a dead weight at this point, drags him out with ease. But if you look at that scene again, there's 3 other people that are with the Queen that just run off. They don't help.
They're like, fuck this. Just make a beeline straight out of there.
They look over, see that he's in trouble, and then they just run off, and it's like, who's giving these direction? Who's
like, hey?
A lot of these extras are just like, what are you doing? There's at one point in this in the scene before this when Galadriel's looking around, and there's literally an extra walks and then just sits down in the ash.
I didn't see that. I've got to go back and watch that now.
Please rewatch it. The extras literally just, she's wandering around and she just sits down. And I'm like, what are you doing? And also, just before that, did it bother you that the first name she shouted was Halbrand?
Halbrand, yeah. Yeah.
She doesn't even shout Muriel's name, who's arguably the most important person there. Because if she dies, her cause dies. She's got no Numenorian support. She doesn't even call it. It's just,
well, Halbrand's her booty call, right? Because apparently at this point she's a single lady or a widow. We again store that fact away. We will come back to that later on in the episode. It's just they're really shipping. What did I say? Halbrandriel. What else have I seen? Halbrandriel. I've seen loads of different versions of it, like hashtag. It's crazy. Yeah, so you got Isildur trapped under this burning log. It reminded me of when Muriel shows up. I was just expecting her to like come out with what Michael Caine Alfred says in Batman Begins. He's like, what's the point of doing all those bloody push-ups if you can't even lift a log or whatever it is when Bruce Wayne's trapped into the burning mansion.
Well, Isildur's... Well, none of them are hurt. Isildur's not burnt.
Well, no, he is. Isildur is dead at this point, remember? He's dead. He's not coming back. He is tragically...
yes, because he lifted a beam which didn't need to be lifted because he literally ducks under it and then decides to lift it up so that the Queen can walk under it, even though that would probably weaken the structure of the building. I don't get why he lifts it up. Because then the Queen takes him out, takes the is it the kid and daughter out?
Yeah.
And he's still holding it. They're clearly out of the building and he's still holding it. He's like doing a challenge from World's Strongest Man, and you're thinking, just let go. And when he sees the building collapse on him, he's still looking up.
Yeah. And here's the thing as well, like, we know he survives, but when it cuts to that wide shot and you see the building just collapse into the foundations, this massive building, I'm like, well, I know he's going to survive, but shit, I don't know how anyone makes it out of that. So he should be dead. He should be, judging by what we see. But again, I can't harp on that when at the end of last episode into the beginning of this one, I'm going to go back to a comment here from Lord Oakenshield. Galadriel, who survives the gigantic ash cloud. This was so stupid, nothing makes sense in this shit show. So when you're following that, then sure, Isildur can make it out of a building like that. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that.
But when you think of it as well, Isildur's friend, Isildur not long ago has just risked his life trying to, save him from being under the roof. His friend doesn't even make an effort to try save or look for Isildur. He just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, where's the return of the favour? And they're setting up a rip-off of the scene of Brago and Aragorn in the Two Towers. It's going to be Isildur's horse is going to find him and he's going to
like
bring
nudge him, isn't it? And like lay down next to him. Yeah, it's going to be identical.
And you'll be like the member berries from South Park. It's like, oh, you remember when Brago and Aragorn did this? Well, we got our own Isildur.
Isildur and what is it? Beric? Is that the name of the horse?
Yeah, Beric.
Beric Dondarrion. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. One more thing.
Yeah. Go on. Yeah.
Although Game of Thrones, the season 7's not great, when you got the battle at High Garden, and you see soldiers that have not been hit by fire, but because they've been surrounded by such a hot atmosphere, the skin is melted and the helmet's infused onto the skin, and they rip it off. They rip the skin off. No one's got that. No one's injured. No one's skin has been melted, even though they've been.
Well, some have. The not plot-centric characters have got grievous wounds. Well, there was that dude when it's, he's like an amputee in the bed, isn't he? And there's some people that look like clearly fucked up and shell-shocked. There's guys with like melted, scorched flesh and everything, but not any of the other characters. The plot-centric ones. Bronwyn's fine, Halbrand's fine, Theo's fine, Arondir's fine, Galadriel's fine. So there's just no consistency with it. It's, let's be fair, everyone should be dead. You see an actual building get vaporized at the end of last episode. Imagine what that would do to a human stood right there in the ash cloud. So even though they're trying to show some people that are injured, they're not consistent with it. So either don't bother to make it consistent that everyone apparently has plot armor, or Galadriel should look like Anakin at the end of Revenge of the Sith right now, if she even did survive.
At best, they should be looking like that injured guy in the tent who's severely burnt. At best.
Yeah.
But they all look like they've got wounds, but not from burning. There's only one guy who looks severely burnt. The rest look like they've been impaled. You look at Halbrand, he's got a cut on him.
Oh, that would have been from the battle. Yeah.
It's like none of them look like they've been burnt apart from that one geezer, which they showed, so then people can go, people did get burnt. Luke, there's one.
Things kind of make sense, except nothing makes sense anymore. Sam Oak says, only one more episode left. What Lord of the Rings videos can you do in between? That's a very good question. I mean, we did mention at the start of the stream, you proposed some videos that we could maybe, collaborate on in the future as well. I have got some Middle-earth related content planned for December. It's a certain Middle-earth film's 10th anniversary. You could probably work that out. And I could do some stuff around that, definitely. So I could maybe take a month off and come back strong in December. But as I mentioned, I love talking about Middle-earth, even if it's tearing down a really terrible show like this one. I'm enjoying it. So let's see. Nikki says this show has broken the event horizon of now. Yep. Right, let's move on. I will come back to everyone else's comments, by the way. I will make sure that I've gone through everyone's comments before the end of this stream tonight. Okay, then we jump back to the Harfoot, and I've put an eye-rolling emoji, which is a feeling that I get every time we cut back to these loathsome cunts. And Lenny Henry leads them to, I don't know, it's like the Land Before Time, isn't it? They're migrating to the Great Valley or something. I don't fucking know. The Grove, whatever it's called. Yeah, they're heading
to the Grove.
And there's bits of what I thought it was at first when Gandalf crash landed like a transformer to Middle-earth. I thought it was basically going to be like the scene for Arrival to Earth from the first Transformers movie. I thought those were like a bunch of other wizards. I thought, oh god, here we go. We've got Kuramo, we've got Iowendil, you know, we've got all of these that are showing up, and we're going to have all of the wizards show up, because clearly the wizard showed up to Middle Earth by crash landing from space in a meteor. That's exactly right off the page what Tolkien wrote. But no, it's pieces of Mordor that have traveled that far. So it just goes to show how far this desolation is reaching. And then Lenny Henry delivers a quote right now. I might be reaching with this, but this show is no stranger to completely ripping off almost verbatim lines of dialogue from much better Lord of the Rings material, whether it be the films or the books. And he says, a new evil is rising. And again, I might be reaching, but to me, that just sounds like Christopher Lee when he's like, a new power is rising.
Yeah,
its
it
victory
sounds...
is at hand. It's, you know, you may not have noticed it, but your brain did. It's just those little lines that creep in, and it's, yeah, I hate it.
I'm going to be honest, it couldn't have happened to a bunch of people having their resources destroyed. They are awful beings. And it's funny how the projectiles only hit the trees with the fruit in. The rest, they don't have any resources or anything, are fine.
Yeah.
They just happen to hit the trees with everything that they need on. I mean, that's a coincidence.
It's convenient, isn't it? It's very convenient writing-wise. I wanted to bring this up to you as well to get your opinion on this, but female Frodo, what's her name? Nori. I mentioned this last week. It really annoys me that she's called Nori, because that's one of the name of Thorin's company, and it just really irritates me that she's called Nori. So it's spelled exactly the same way. I know it's a shortened version of her name, but anyway. The last episode, she got her hand frozen by Gandalf, which was totally her own fault, by the way.
Yeah, her fault.
But she acted like really scared and was like, "Oh my god, who like get away from me?" But then she's like defending him, and it's almost like that never happened. Like they're best buddies again. She's defending him. She's sticking up for him. She's concerned about him. And I'm like, did the writers forget that last episode she was absolutely traumatized and terrified by him? Well, it's almost like they've completely forgot that.
They kind of imply that he's evil at this point. With, is it Sardox? Like, he's mentioned how, you know, this has all happened because there's new evils rising, and they all look at the tall guy, having forgotten that he saved them from the wolves, and it wasn't his fault that Nori's hand was frozen. It was her fault.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate the Harfoots. They are awful beings. And it gets worse. It's
like if I saw someone pouring liquid nitrogen onto the ground, and I walk up to them and I put my hand under the liquid nitrogen and it completely freezes my hand, and it'd be like the equivalent of me then blaming them. It's like I willingly put my hand underneath what I could quite clearly see was liquid nitrogen. Oh god, this series is going to be the death of me. I can't even at the level of stupidity with this. We've got a few more commenters come in as well. Bath Time with Vaughn, who's actually defended a few of the episodes before. And as I said, I'm not going to ridicule anyone who enjoys the episodes or enjoys elements that maybe I don't. I'm open to all opinions on this channel. He opens with, I'm going to be honest, lads, I didn't like this episode. So even the people that have been defending this show beforehand, even they didn't like this episode. How the fuck does Theo know what his dirty old man mate? God, that sounds so sleazy. Oh god, that's gross. How the fuck does Theo know what his dirty old man mate has been up to so he can blame himself? Yeah, it's almost like he's read the script, isn't it? It's ridiculous. Ecthelion of the Fountain's back, says, hello. Galadriel somehow survived the Doritos. Yeah, so Nerdrotic has been calling it, like, she looks like she's covered in Cheeto or Dorito dust, which is great, like flaming hot flavor. Ecthelion of the Fountain says, who here barely got through the most recent episode? Well, dude, tell him you watched it twice, so you're the best person to answer that question.
I'm not gonna lie, I had a headache after I finished it. I was like, I feel ill.
How long did it take you to get through the episode the second time around?
4 hours.
4 hours.
Made notes because I will be making a video on this one. And it took me 4 hours and I've got 8 pages worth of notes.
Oh, God. Do you know what the sad thing is, you know what you could have done in that time? In 4 hours and 8 minutes, you could have watched the extended edition of Return of the King.
Oh, don't.
And been loving life.
Oh, that.
Just think about that for a second. That's food for
That
thought right there.
That hurts how much development we get, even in like the Fellowship of the Rings. Not even the extended editions, how much development we get, and we've had
how
7
effective they are
hours.
with the time as well. Just how much story they're able to condense in. I mean, it's a long film, but compared to the source material, relatively short amount of time. Next week, we're coming up to 8 hours of content, maybe even, in the ballpark. And what has advanced? You compare it to Game of Thrones. 7 episodes into season 1 of Game of Thrones. How much progression, even from just episode 1, you've come through at that point. And this one, the hobbits have walked to a new place.
That's it. They found
the orcs have activated a volcano. Galadriel's still a bitch. Numenor have deliberated whether they should sail or they shouldn't sail. They go to sail, then the next episode they're still debating it. Then they do sail, then they're there, and then at the end of this they're going back to Numenor. It's just the pacing of this show is both agonizingly slow with not much development and not much happening, but then also way too fast. Case in point, like the Numenorians arriving at Middle-earth ridiculously quickly. Us already getting to the Balrog of Morgoth. Like it's so weird, the pacing of this show, that my brain can't even comprehend how idiotic it is. I just
I think
I'm struggling.
It's the worst pacing I've seen of a show.
Yeah,
it's awful. Like you said, you've got scenes where the Harfoots have they've moved to the Grove or whatever it's called, and then you've got Galadriel that's been up and down, travelled thousands of miles, and I don't even know if it's part of the same timeline. I don't know at this point.
I was watching this. I mean, I enjoy doing fan edits of stuff. Obviously, my namesake, I've done a fan edit of the Hobbit films. I've been watching this week to week thinking, like, is there any way you could edit any shred of this series and I've lost him. Anyway, I've been watching this thinking, like, is there any way that you could do a fan edit of this show and make it like halfway compelling or make sense? And I don't think you can. I think just from foundationally, I think it's just completely irreparably broken, from the offset. I don't think you can do anything with it, especially if you're trying to make it lore accurate as possible. If you're making it lore accurate as possible, I think I might have 30 seconds of Galadriel's prologue, maybe, that I could use in some respects.
Although they fuck it up because it was Ungoliant that destroyed the trees.
Yeah.
Not more.
I mean, I could work with that. I could add like a silhouette of like a spider, and I could work with that. But her brother is killed in the pits, in Sauron's torture pits by a werewolf. He fights a werewolf barehanded. Now, when you do see him like lying dead on the table, there are some scratch marks on his body. But I think it's very much inferred that he died during that battle where you see him, like screaming in the center of it.
I hope the show has the balls to show how Gil-galad dies. I hope they have the balls, because...
Do you think it'll get that far?
If Galadriel doesn't burn, then Gil-galad does.
Yeah, she can't burn. She can't, like... It's impossible. Like, if she'd have, like, taken the ring from Frodo at the end of Return of the King and, like, grappled with him and fell off, she just, like, smacked on top of the lava because she can't burn.
Yes.
Like, I'm still alive, but I'm very badly injured. Just like, she's just why won't you die?
Just think how much lore we've still got to go.
Well, I don't know, because apparently we've skipped to the Balrog of Morgoth, and that's Third Age. So apparently we're pretty much almost caught up in some respects.
Wow.
So got another 4 seasons of this shit.
I don't get how I'll come on to that. I don't want to jump ahead, but
no, that's fine. That's fine.
When we already saw the Balrog in the trailer, which I thought was a farce, but it's nostalgia. It's it brings back all those memories, but it's laughable how the Balrog wakes up
We'll get there.
Oh,
I've got notes on that too. You know how I showed you the notes beforehand and there was like that string
yeah.
of face palms? That was one of them. We will come on to that. So let's just skip through the episode a bit more. So we're at the Grove. Gandalf tries to heal the tree. The spell doesn't work properly and it accidentally, splits the tree in half. It lands on. So apparently Nori's got a young sister. I completely forgot about her. I forgot that she was a thing. I completely forgot that she had a sibling.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was a boy at first, and they try to make it out as if it's the Meteor Man's fault that happened.
Yeah.
The kid walked closer to the tree. It's not his fault. It fell off.
Like even
And
just
now
as a
it's
precaution,
evil.
you'd keep like a couple of paces back, wouldn't you, just in case something went wrong with it. But then we see that, a flower starts to bloom on there and everything's going to be fine. After that, okay, we cut to Elrond. He is bargaining with King Durin. He wants, the Mithril deposit for in return for grain, game, and timber for the next 500 years. And we cut to some dwarven extras. It's like, I'd take that deal. It's a pretty good deal. It's a damn good deal.
But that's if he could keep his promise.
Exactly.
And we all know that Elrond kept his promise to Durin and did not show Celebrimbor the piece of Mithril.
Yeah, it's like he basically swore a blood oath to never mention, I believe the words was never to utter this to another living soul in Middle-earth, which was immediately broken in the next episode. And even to like the rest of the dwarves, who I know they're in the know, but Elrond doesn't know that. These could just be like common garden dwarves that don't know anything, that have no means in the privacy of what goes on in those mines. And it's just like, oh yeah, give me this mithril. And all the dwarves should be, mithril? What the fuck's mithril? Like, King, have you been holding information against us? Yeah, he's just bold as brass, comes right out with it. But this is what annoys me the most. There's a moment where they start talking about Aule. I think it's King Durin. I think he's talking to his son, and he says that Aule fashioned us out of two elements, stone and fire, and this is what gives us our personality, and going into all this. I'm like, oh, so you did read the lore then, and do understand who Aule is and how the dwarves were made. So there's shreds of lore in there, like the bit in the previous couple of episodes where Elrond talks about his father, Eärendil and all of his exploits. I'm like, it just pisses me off that there are moments where they clearly have read the lore and they are trying to be lore accurate, but then we just have the rest of the shower of shit that goes along with it.
I heard that they have the rights to some of the lore.
It's the Second Age stuff, I think, and I think it's the appendices of the Lord of the Rings. So they don't have the rights to the Silmarillion, so they can't go like really in depth into it as the Silmarillion does. But any characters that are mentioned or events that are mentioned of the Third Age, of the Second Age, and the First Age within the appendices of the Lord of the Rings book, they can use that. That's to my knowledge, anyway. I think that's right, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Right. But I still find it very odd how they're telling this story without the full rights.
Yeah.
Like, you're kind of handicapping yourself there. It's not great.
It just seemed like they rushed to just get a piece of the pie, didn't they? Like, Game of Thrones was finished. There was a fantasy TV vacuum at that point. You had loads of studio. It's like, well, what's the next big fantasy IP? Lord of the Rings is massive. And you had loads of people vying for it. I read an article earlier. I don't know how true it is. Apparently, HBO pitched to the Tolkien estate that they wanted to do a remake of The Lord of the Rings in a TV show. The Tolkien estate didn't want to do that because they didn't want to retread over familiar ground. You had Netflix who pitched a almost MCU style structure for the shows. They wanted to do an Aragorn spin-off. They wanted to do a Gandalf spin-off. And that terrified the Tolkien estate because they didn't want to turn it into what would essentially be like an MCU kind of universe. But somehow they gave Amazon the go-ahead. So I don't know if Amazon came out with a really great pitch with a promise of keeping it as faithful as possible. But they sure as shit didn't live up to that promise if that's what they were promised. But with the death of Christopher Tolkien, it just seems like the estate's under new leadership and they're just looking for a quick buck, They're just, yeah, that's what it seems like to me. They delve too greedily and too deep, which is precisely what King Durin in this episode doesn't want to do. he's the voice of reason, and he says that we shouldn't keep mining. I've got a bad feeling about this. So, do you think he's aware that there's a Balrog under there, or there's some kind of like entity, satanic entity that they're pissing off in the bowels of Khazad-dûm?
They make that out, but I'm not sure if it's just because they had that incident where the dwarfs were the cave went down and the dwarfs were trapped and they've had tremors. I don't know if he's worried about the structural safety of Moria, or if he does suspect it. But if he does, why the hell did he throw the leaf down there in the first place? I mean, they explain the lore, don't they? I say lore, of how the Silmaril was it the how did
it's the Silmaril. The Silmaril was apparently chilling in a tree, and an elf, an unnamed elf lord or high king, was trying to get the power of pump his good energy into the Silmaril, and the Balrog was like, no, the Silmaril's got to die, and he's pumping his evil energy into it, and the combination of the evil and the good energy went into the tree. Someone wrote this, went into the roots of the tree, which spread into the roots of the mountain and fashioned a Mithril deposit. And that's how we have Mithril, which apparently has healing abilities. As Ecthelion, we'll get onto this in a second, quite rightly says, I'm lamenting about the Mithril law violation.
Yeah. I forgot who told that bit. Was it Elrond? Or was it Gil-galad?
I think it was Elrond. Oh, hang on. No, I think Gil-galad, because it was complete exposition. I think he says to Elrond, I trust you're aware of the history of Mithril, or something like that. And then Elrond goes, yes, and proceeds to he's like, recount it for me and the audience who are watching. And then Elrond just tells Gil-galad everything he already knows for the audience's benefit.
I'm pretty sure the dwarves would be familiar with that lore then. I mean, it's their home.
Yeah, surely maybe, unless they've just found this precious thing and it's just gone, hey, this is a cool ore that we haven't found before. This is still relatively new. Maybe they don't know the backstory of it, but surely Elrond would have told Durin about it, considering he's the only other living person who he can talk about Mithril with, which, he kind of shit the bed with that in the very next episode. But
how does Elrond know how much Mithril there is? Because they're kind of banking on there being a shit ton of Mithril, which they've only seen one little bit of Mithril. Obviously, he sees more when he digs deep later on in the episode, but how much do the elves actually need? And what will it actually do to them? Like, we see what it does to that leaf. It gets rid of the corruption, but what's it going to do to the elves? How does it prolong their life?
And it's all it's got to be is in like, it's just got to be neighboring it, hasn't it? It's just got to be in like close proximity to the thing, which will apparently rejuvenate it, because Mithril can't just be, as light as a feather and hard as dragon scales. It's now got to have magical bullshit healing properties to nature, which, Tara Lenion's right there. He says that it was called the Tale of the Roots of Hithaglia. Sorry. Oh boy. Apparently as well, Ecthelion says they only have the rights to the Lord of the Rings appendices and the Hobbit, as far as we know. I didn't think they had the rights to the Hobbit, because I thought that's why they call them Harfoots. I didn't think they could specifically call them Hobbits, but I might be wrong about that. Let's have a look. So then we have Disa, who is angry at the king's refusal. Elrond has an emotional goodbye to Prince Durin, and I thought, if this was actually well written, I might have felt something at this parting if I actually cared about these characters. And you can tell the actors are trying. They're really trying. The guy who plays Prince Durin, when he's getting emotional and stuff.
See, Durin looks upset. Elrond doesn't look that distraught.
Elrond doesn't care,
even though his race has probably been doomed to death.
Yeah.
I would be pretty angry if I just found out that there's a resource that could save could save my race, and it's with an ally, and the ally's going, nah, we're not going to give it to you, I'd be pretty angry. I wouldn't just be like, yeah, it's not
Yeah,
fair.
Elrond just kind of takes it lying down, doesn't he? He's like, oh, can we please have some mithril? No. Please? No. Oh, all right then. See ya. Namarie.
Right,
So yeah, then you have the shot where Durin throws the piece of mithril on the table and it conveniently lands right next to the leaf, which magically heals it, and he shouts after Elrond and he agrees to help him. I've got another quote here, but it'll come up in a later scene with Disa. What's going on with Disa's Sith eyes? They can't be the actress's real eyes, and if that's the case, why have they digitally corrected her eyes? She looks pure evil in this, with like, I don't know, is it just me? She looks like a Sith. She looks like that scene from Revenge when like Anakin's killing the Separatists and he does the trailer shot where he looks at the camera.
Yes, she does look evil. I think the contacts.
They must be. I mean, she basically turns into Lady Macbeth in the end of this episode. We'll get onto that scene though.
I mean, she inspires treason.
She does. Yeah. Is it regicide? Is that when you kill a monarch? Is it?
Yes, regicide. And it. Oh, what's it when you kill your father?
Oh, a patricide.
Yeah. So
yeah,
she's inciting that.
Our protagonists, everyone. And what wonderful human beings they are. Ecthelion of the Fountain says they have totally messed the elves up. Total lack of understanding the nature of the elves and the fact that they're meant to have long hair as well. That's also a problem to me, an ongoing problem. Okay. This is it. This is the moment. Theo wants revenge against the orcs, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna he's gonna Leroy Jenkins that shit. Like he's ready. He's pumped." And Galadriel's like, "No," and she advises otherwise. Right around this time, the Queen tells Elendil that Isildur is dead. He's very upset about that. I also have a note here that says Theo continues not to be able to act. He is awful. I'd say he's probably awful. The worst thing in this show. I don't know what drama school they've dragged him up from, but maybe try and find don't give up your day job. Yeah, just
it's as if Amazon have gone, who are the two most dislikable characters we could think of? Galadriel and Theo. Right, let's get them in a scene and let's let the audience see how good they are, how Theo's misunderstood, he's feeling guilt, and Galadriel's feeling guilt for some reason. And let's feel sympathy for these. She says a quote that made me laugh. I'm trying to find the quote. It's something about forget. Something, don't fill your head full of. You see, I don't know. I'll find the quote if you want.
Oh, is this where she's really upset about the fact, she's saying to Theo, don't go and kill orcs because that's not a good thing and you will be filled with hate and that's evil. Galadriel, a character who has stated last episode that she would quite happily sit by and watch as every single living orc on this entire Middle-earth is systematically murdered, slowly, painfully, in front of a grinning Galadriel. And now, all of a sudden, Galadriel is mourning the fact that she's killed orcs and is saying that it's a bad thing and you will be consumed and you shouldn't take glory or joy in the killing of things because that's bad. Well, I sure hope someone told that to Galadriel a couple of episodes ago.
So she says, so Theo's on about that he's lost his friends, his mother, Arondir. I mean, I've never seen him interact with anyone else other than the kid who Waldrig killed and Waldrig, so I don't know what friends he's got.
And then Galadriel chimes in and goes, "You have not lost like I have lost. This is about me. This is about me, Theo. This is all me. Spotlight's on me."
Is your mother died? No, my brother died. But she says, her response to that is, what cannot be known hollows the mind. fill it not with guesswork. And then she later on says that I'm sure your mother's at the camp and is alive. It's like you're guessing that. So you're contradicting yourself.
Fuck's sake. Yeah, Tara Lenian says, Galadriel says, don't do this or you will be just like me. And this town's only big enough for one Galadriel, guys. So, you know, leave the orc killing to me, even though it's bad and we should be ashamed of that. But I also want to kill them all. I want to kill all those pesky fucking orcs. Let's get to it. Right after this, Queen Mithril is revealed to be blind. She's basically Daredevil now, because I guarantee that her ass-kicking days are not done. She's going to be ninja trained or something. She's going to be able to have like super sonic hearing like Daredevil, and she'll be just fine. And she takes confidence in Elendil, and she's like, guide my horse, but don't draw attention to it. Don't tell anyone I'm blind. So later in the episode, I'm going to literally wrap a blindfold around my eyes, signaling to everyone that she's blind.
Oh, you know what? I did not pick up on that in my notes.
It's just a load of shit, isn't it? It's just terrible. Again, like, how does this... Who... Does this have any kind of quality check? Surely someone would pick up on that. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Oh, hang on. Let me. Are we back?
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
no, that's cool. That's cool.
I did not pick up on that on my notes. That's such a good point. She's blatantly out in the open with the bandage on, looking like, a World War I victim that's been gassed, and she's all of a sudden she's like, oh, don't make it obvious. It's like, at least write it properly. Don't just make it clearly wear a bandage.
She's going to be like Blinken from Men in Tights, isn't she? Like, she's going to get back to Numenor and like touch like a wooden post and go, Master Elendil, you lost your arms in battle.
You know that they're going to do a Arya storyline, where she's going to become a ninja, and then her eyes will heal. And
we can't take away Miriel's agency. We can take away her eyes, but we're not going to take away her agency or her ass-kicking, deadlifting ability that she clearly possesses. But how long did she think she could maintain that facade? Like, she gets back to Numenor and does an address to the people, and she's like, my people! And they're like, Miriel, over here. Oh, my people! Like, how long did she think she was going to keep that facade up? I don't get it.
No, I don't get it. It's stupid, and that basically sums up the show.
Yeah. We've taken an hour and 12 so far to just say it's stupid. If you want the shortened review, there you go, right there, one sentence.
I wonder how much time we've actually covered in this episode.
I mean, I'm about halfway down my notes right now, but
we're on this section, aren't we? On my notes, I put there's 47 minutes left.
I did check the time of this episode, and I think I hit about 40 minutes, and I thought, oh my god, we've got like another half hour of this shit to go. Just seemed never ending. Here we go. Ecthelion the Fountain says, sorry, excuse me, writing is laughably bad in this series. No wonder the showrunners were uncredited writers. Yeah, you got bad robots' fingerprints all over this as well. If you do some digging as the people that are involved in the show. Right after this point, I think they mentioned, and I think I heard this correctly, although I was kind of glazing over at this point in the episode, that not Gandalf is heading towards Greenwood the Great to search for others. I think that's what they said. I might be misremembering that, and I thought, oh, okay, well, if he's heading to Greenwood the Great, which would eventually become Mirkwood at some point, is this actually going to turn out to be Radagast? And he's going to, like, dwell in Greenwood the Great? I don't know.
Well, they just hand him a map and just tell him to go on his way. And we saw in previous episodes that he's not the best at understanding English, but Sardok's just speaking to him fluently, and he's like, yep. Oh, stars. Yep, I'm going to go.
Yeah, he should be like, stars? Like, he shouldn't play... It's just like, yeah, the things, twinkly constellation. Fuck it, I'll draw you a map. Okay, then. Oh, this is the big one. This is the big one. This is the big Galadriel revelation moment of a certain character who was up until this point has remained unname checked in the show until today. We knew it was coming. The leaks were out there that in episode 7 we would finally hear of the fate of Celeborn, or Celeborn would at least get a mention. Galadriel mentions the death of her husband. Take it away. You start us off.
Well, she's reminiscing, isn't she, about people who she's lost, because it's the Galadriel show.
She's lost more people than anyone else has.
Yeah, her loss means more than, everyone's, including Halbrand. She even stated it. And she states that she was married once. She had a husband.
Pops out of nowhere with that. What, 7 episodes in?
Although they didn't mention a daughter, though. So I'm like,
no. Where's Celebrian? Guys? Anyone?
I reckon, and we discussed this beforehand, he's not going to be dead.
Yeah, they're going to do some kind of bullshit reveal. I mean, they have to. The reason they said that they didn't want to have Galadriel married in this show, I think this was almost a direct quote. They said they didn't want to take away from Galadriel's agency because, any woman who is married is not independent or can form her own opinion, is basically shackled for life just because she's married. Which is why we don't have Celeborn, because they wanted to go with we can only have a strong, powerful, independent woman unless she's single and has the freedom to hit on hot guys like Halbrand.
Yes.
The whole crux of this character's motivations from the first episode, which I'm not a fan of, but if they're going with this motivation, at least keep it consistent, is the fact that she wants to get revenge on Sauron and the orcs for the death of her brother. You think at that point in that exposition throughout the course of the episodes, she would have also have added in the fact that her husband was kidnapped by Sauron and or orcs and was tortured and or killed. You think that would have made it into the conversation at some point. Of all the things that she's lost, she would have mentioned that she lost a brother and a husband, which for some reason has only come into it now, probably because we're at the tail end of the series and they're setting up plot threads that are going to lead into the next one. She's going to go on the hunt for her. It's going to be like the end of Kill Bill, like Sauron or Halbrand's going to say, Adar's going to say, like, is Galadriel aware that her husband is still alive? Cut to end credits. Or we're going to see him in some kind of like jail cell rotting. And that's going to be like a season 2 thing, isn't it? She's going to go off on the hunt for her husband. And then when we get to him, Celeborn's going to be weak and just not be able to lead people and just be an absolute cook to Galadriel.
She'll bring him back.
Yeah. Then she'll rule, and he will be sickly and need all of the help. He needs elvish medicine. It's going to happen. Here we go. Ecthelion said it absolutely perfectly. They wanted to make Galadriel full of piss and vinegar. Well, they certainly achieved that. It's just the fact that, and this is what I mean, like, just like the complete disregard for the lore here, that they don't have Celeborn involved. The fact, I think they mentioned that this is meant to be set 1,000 years into the Second Age, which just makes no sense narratively in the timeline for it to be set at that point. There's still no Celebrian. At this point, I think Halbrand's going to boink Galadriel, and then Sauron's going to turn out to be the father of Celebrian. That's, I mean...
Oh my God, you can see it, can't you?
And then you're going to have like a Rosemary's Baby situation where she's literally carrying the child of Satan.
Well, I think you said it in previous streams. You just know that he's going to be Sauron, and, they'll get together, and then she'll find out, and she'll kind of do a Darth Vader. It's like, he'll be like, join me, join my side. And she'll be like, no. And then she'll be like, oh my God, I've been with Sauron. I've been, giving this cause of evil. I've been, giving him support and all this platform, and somehow it will turn out to be that it's her fault.
Yeah.
But she'll be excused.
And then they're going to do something like at the end of season 5 or something where they're going to try and tie it into the Lord of the Rings films. After she's gone through like they're going to do the Eowyn thing at the end of the book where she's been a shield maiden and then she's like, you know what, I'm going to put this part of my life behind me. I'm going to be a good waifu. I'm going to, just become a good settled down wife. And she's going to throw in like, I shall diminish and go to Lothlorien and remain Galadriel, and they're going to do something like that. I can already tell it's going to happen.
But I don't get why she doesn't get suited and booted when they find out that Sauron's returned.
Yeah,
in the Third Age.
It's like, oh no, I'm going to go into the West, but Galadriel, you're the best fighter in the Second Age. We need you. No.
She's already been to the West, Chris. She's already been and then swam back.
She's just like Rutger Hauer at the end of Blade Runner. I have seen things you people wouldn't believe.
She's not wrong.
No, I know. Tara Linian says, notice how Galadriel appropriated the Luthien and Beren meeting. He saw me dancing in a glade. Yeah, so I didn't harp on that because I'm not familiar. I know it's written, I think it's in the Unfinished Tales, but I think there's a bunch of different ways, contradictory writings of Tolkien of how Galadriel and Celeborn met and at which point of the First Age they met and whether they made their escape together. And there's loads of conflicting writers on that. So I couldn't remember if that's how they met. Tolkien likes to write elvish people coming together of either someone looking beautiful, like fancying them from afar, or someone's dancing, or someone's singing in a meadow. He does that a lot, so I couldn't remember if that is how Galadriel and Celeborn met. I think it is mentioned in the Silmarillion. I think she just admired him. I think they were just they were just smitten with each other. They were just like a power couple, like Gomez and Morticia Adams, just absolutely head over heels in love with each other. But that takes away from her agency. There's also a moment as well I wanted to bring up, and I wish I could remember the quote. Maybe Tara Lenian's got me backed up here. As I said, like dude's like an encyclopedia. There's a moment where Galadriel's talking to Theo, and I can't remember the exact words that she said, but it sounds very reminiscent. It's more appropriated dialogue of when Gandalf's comforting Frodo in Moria, and he says something like, there are many forces in this world, Frodo Baggins, beyond good and evil, or something. And it sounds very similar to that. And I thought, oh God, they're trying. So it's just like, stop. I don't know where the legalities of that lie, because they pilfer verbatim.
Yeah, she basically says that I do not believe that evil is in your heart,
mm-hmm.
or something like that, and that's why he isn't at fault for what he did. I don't know, but he kind of shrugs it off. I don't know if it's just the actor's just awful, but
probably
he's kind of like, yeah, bypasses it. And did you think that again? It felt very much like the Fellowship of the Ring, where they're hiding under the tree.
That's my next note. Yeah, go on. Yeah,
it's like, oh my God, this episode's got so many throwbacks. It's like
Adar's
inspired by something,
yeah,
and then you're ripping it off. It's like, come on.
The orc's like leaning over the log when they're hiding, and he's like, and then, as if that wasn't a shameless callback, right after it, do you remember what one of the orcs says to the orc who's smelling?
What is it? What do you smell?
What is it? What do you smell?
I did expect them to say man flesh.
Man flesh.
I love how they've been having a loud conversation. The orcs here, and then Theo just takes the sword a little bit out of the sheath, and it's like the orc's like, what? What was that?
Yeah. It's just bad. Yeah, Tara Lenian, and this is why I love Tara Lenian in here as well. Just sharing actual quotations, because it's nice to actually read a bit from Tolkien himself. Yes, I am Gandalf the Grey, said the wizard solemnly. There are many powers in this world for good and for evil, or for evil. Sorry, some are greater than I am. Against some I have not yet been measured, but my time is coming. The Morgul Lord and his Black Riders have come forth. War is preparing. Ugh. Yeah, Lord of the Rings, many meetings. Such good stuff. And this is what I mean, like, with the moments that we just mentioned, how they completely rip off dialogue from the Two Towers and scenes from the Fellowship and iconography from that. Where do the legalities of that lie? Because that's not even kind of ripping it off. The line, what is it? What do you smell? Said in exactly the same cadence and exactly the same way and pretty much exactly the same voice. Can like Philippa Boyens and that like sue them, or like I don't get it. No worries, dude. So yeah, so everything in Middle Earth's got to bounce. Just I'm gonna carry on. I've only got a few more notes anyway. But yeah, if you just want to go through where people can find you again real quick, I'll just bring up your links, dude.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube, everything in Middle Earth. I post the appendices, which, yeah, it doesn't do good for me copyright for my channel, but at the end of the day, the more people that get to see the appendices, the better, because they're amazing. And you see people commenting now saying, just look how much care they've put into it.
Yeah.
And then you look at Amazon. Follow me on there. On Twitter, I post memes and little rants. But honestly, thank you so much for this. Like, your channel is rising. You are getting noticed, mate. So keep up doing the great work. Do some history videos. You know,
Yeah.
I truly believe that with the passion that you've got for it, they'll be great. And you've got the voice for it. So, and you've got the means for it as well. Just don't make Galadriel a badass fighting warrior if you're doing those videos, please.
No, absolutely, absolutely. No, I really appreciate that, dude. Thank you so much for the kind words. I do appreciate it. And thank you for reaching out and joining me tonight. It's a shame we haven't got to the Mordor and the Balrog thing, because I know we've got so much to say for that. But maybe, I mean, if you're down for it next week, I'd love to have you on again for the finale. And maybe we can just begin the stream by going over some of those things. Yeah, you're welcome back. You are welcome anytime, to quote Bilbo from Battle of the Five Armies. Yeah, this has been a blast, dude. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for everyone in the comment section. I hope you have a good night.
Absolutely, dude. Thank you very much for tuning in, and yeah, we'll reconvene, mate. This is not over. This is to be continued for sure. But yeah, have a good night, dude. I'll catch you soon.
See you a bit, pal.
See ya. Bye. Bye. Okay, then there was one. So let's get through the rest of this. Then, as I said, I will go through every comment that has come through. Even if it's been at the beginning of the stream, I will go back to it before I'm all said and done. Okay, so after that Ringwraith scene, we have the whole moment where he says, you know, Durin, son of Durin. We also have secret names that are only known to us by our close family. I mentioned that at the beginning of the stream, so I'm not going to harp on it again, but the whole lineage of the Durins, it doesn't work like that. You know, with the Balrog awakening, that's Durin the Sixth, and that's why it's called Durin's Bane, but it's Durin the Sixth, not Durin the Third or the Fourth. Durin the Third and Fourth should not be existing at the same time, because they're meant to be the same, I guess, Fea. I don't know if that's the word that you'd appropriate with the dwarves, but it's meant to be the same spirit. It's meant to be reincarnated. That's what the dwarves believe. Whether that's true or not, that's up for debate, but it's heavily implied that it's meant to be the same spirit that is being reincarnated throughout the who I guess it's like the prophecy of Anakin, like he will bring balance to the Force for the dwarves and lead them to prosperity. And I think that culminates with Durin the Seventh, who is the son of Thorin the Third Stonehelm, I think, if I remember in my lore correctly. At this point, Elrond and Durin go to the Mithril deposit, and they find this massive deposit of Mithril. Right at this point, King Durin catches them in the act. Oh yeah, there's another scene right here as well where Elrond and Prince Durin are kind of they're talking about that competition that they had back in, was it episode 1 or episode 2, where they have to break as much rock, and Durin's like, oh, you were tiring, you were winded, and Elrond was like, well, actually no, I think you were winded first. And if I remember rightly, I seem to remember that conversation between them. I think they already had that conversation. maybe at the dinner table scene where they talk about what, oh, you know, I was winded and you clearly. But anyway, we get a reprise of that. King Durin catches them in the act, and he is absolutely pissed, and he sends Elrond on his merry way. He takes him to the front door and just kind of throws like a pack at him. And I thought, is Elrond really going to walk back to Lindon on his own, or Eregion on his own? Because he has done that before with Celebrimbor. No horses, no provisions, just fucking walking. Just walking. And I guess that was Elrond's intention. He was about to start walking back home. Right after this scene as well, you have two Durins arguing, and King Durin, Prince Durin challenges his father and his leadership quality, to which the king pulls off like the collar and I guess just completely casts away his royal titles of being his heir at this point. Right after this, we then cut back to the Harfoots, and the fruit overnight has grown in the grove, and it's now like a prosperous landscape until the real Slim Shady shows up. Or I've put a Sith Slim Shady, because when they walk around, it's like Korra, Radama, and it's like this like Sith whispers everywhere they go, who can teleport apparently. So they're walking through being all creepy like the three witches of Macbeth. And Nori kind of calls them out, and they say, you know, you must excuse my friend, he's a little slow. Gandalf is that way. And when she turns back, they've disappeared, they've teleported. So they also have teleporting powers apparently. We still don't know who these people are. They're just kind of really creepy. But we then see that they have magical powers, so maybe they're Maya as well. I've seen some people hypothesizing that they're female wizards. Ecthelion, exactly as you just said it. Feminine. Yeah. Do you think this show... I mean, I think this show's capable of anything at this point in terms of the lore. Do we think that these could be three female... They're like Hocus Pocus, aren't they? Like Sarah Jessica Parker and what was her name? Is it Bette Midler? Yeah, do you think they're going to do female wizards, female Astari? Is that going to... So it's not 5 wizards anymore? These are going to be different ones? Are these going to be evil wizards? Are there a faction of evil wizards that have been sent by Morgoth, which can't happen because Morgoth's in the void? But I don't know. Sound off in the comments your theories about who these people are. To which point they extinguish the torch and blow the sparks into the village and completely ignites the Harfoot's wagons and homes and just leave them like that. I ain't even mad, because in my opinion, the Harfoots had it coming, because they're horrible, cultish, despicable people who leave people behind to die. So it's kind of a time they got a taste of their own medicine a little bit. Tara Linian says the Dwarven family tree just has Durin the Seventh as a descendant of Thorin the Third. It uses double dashes Thorin the Third to Durin the Seventh. Yeah, that's what I imagine. Yeah, I think it's implied that Durin the Seventh is the son of Thorin the Third Stonehelm. I mean, that's all we have to go on at this point, isn't it? Ecthelion of the Fountain says they're called mystics. Apparently, don't know any more than that. Maybe they're a rock. maybe they're like the Hex Girls or something. And they're going to put a spell on you. Cheeky little Scooby-Doo reference there for anyone who doesn't know. The Mystics. Maybe that... I heard that they were a cult... Yeah, Taralenian's right there. That's what I thought they were as well. I think the leaks have noticed them as some kind of Morgoth cultists. Yeah, that's what I heard as well. That's where I'm going with it. So, who knows? Do you think they'll say who they are in the finale? I don't think they will. I think they're just going to keep that in the back pocket till season 2. God forbid. And next scene... Oh, hang on. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because it keeps cutting between the characters. But the last Harfoot scene, there's another bit of appropriated dialogue as well, where all of the Harfoots are kind of crying and gathering themselves after the village has been desolated. Lenny Henry walks up and says, "Pity's sake, give them some time to weep," which is, of course, a callback to Boromir after Gandalf dies in Fellowship of the Ring, when he's like, "Give them a moment, for pity's sake. You know, by nightfall, these hills will be swarming with orcs." more appropriated dialogue. Right afterwards, you have Nori's father giving his powerful, impassioned speech to rally the Harfoots with our hearts even bigger than our feet. And he almost stares directly at the camera when he says that as well, like it's a documentary piece. We saw that in the trailers, and I'll say, like, the writers can at least write better villain speeches, better rallying villain speeches than they can for the good guys. Arondir's speech in the last episode was like, "Who's with me? Yay! I can't hear you. Who's with me?" It's almost like it's a pantomime or like a rock band getting the crowd going. With hearts even bigger than our feet. I mentioned this last time. Are hobbits aware that their feet are big? Or are they just kind of normal for who they are? They're just kind of normal feet to them, aren't they? Also, a bit of trivia. I actually can't remember this. Maybe Taralenian might. I don't think Tolkien at any point specifically states that hobbits have big feet. I don't think he mentions that they have giant feet comparative to them. I think that's just something that's been portrayed on screen from the animated things, and it's just the way it is now. Like, you can't imagine hobbits being any other way. So let's jump back up. So Elendil is he lets the horse go, Isildur's horse go, which, I already mentioned with everything in Middle-earth. They're clearly going to do probably a shot-for-shot remake of the Two Towers scene where Brago goes after Aragorn after he falls off the cliff. You have the moment where he, it kind of kneels beside him, and Aragorn gets onto Brago, and you have that victorious... I love that bit with Howard Shore's score as well, when it kicks in when he's riding back to Helm's Deep. It's a great bit of music. Although I'm not too keen on that actual plot point in the Two Towers, the fake out Aragorn death. It's like, we know he's going to survive. But at least it serves a plot point, like a purpose. He warns them of the oncoming army. So I just said that all the main characters have plot armor, because I think it's right about here in the episode where Bronwyn's revealed to be alive, and Arondir, and, as I said, all the plot-centric characters. They're all fine, not a mark on them. They're absolutely fine. Just casually survive a volcanic blast. Ecthelion says the feet are ridiculously large, even anatomically. Yeah, and it even looks like some of the actors are struggling to walk with it. In that scene where... Lenny Henry agree. That reminded me of the Fellowship as well. Here's another one. They kind of recreate the forming of the Fellowship. Nori's like, I will go to Greenwood the Great, though I do not know the way. And then Lenny Henry's like, I will help you bear this burden. And then a bunch of them are like, here, we're coming too. Just, it's just trying to recreate that Fellowship moment, isn't it? Let's see. Taralenian, the Harfoots were browner of skin, smaller and shorter, and they were beardless and bootless. Their hands and feet were neat and nimble. Yeah, so you always think that, and they refer to Bilbo being silent. He is the burglar after all. He's the one that they recruit to sneak into Smaug's lair. You would expect someone who's, really agile and quiet to have really small feet. But here we go. The stores were broader, heavier in build. Their feet and hands were larger. Oh, okay. So it's mentioned there. Lord of the Rings prologue. Yeah, maybe they do then. Maybe they do. Let's see. We're almost done, guys. We're almost done. We get the information that Bronwyn is heading for Pelargir. Right around this time as well, Queen Miriel speaks to Galadriel and says, don't lose heart, don't lose that fiery, revengeful spirit. We're going to get our own back on the orcs. So I'm going to head back to Numenor, but this is not over. I think she's leaving a garrison with them, but she's taking all the rest of the supplies with her, so I don't know how that's going to work. But they just got here, and they're going to go back to Numenor. I don't know if she's going to try and rally the troops or bring more people. I don't know how much time has passed. If this was in reality, you could maybe do a storyline where, let's say it's taken months to get anywhere. You could have had our Pharazôn kind of working in the shadows and building his following while the Queen Regent's gone and rallying the people. Because remember, they took our jobs. They took our jobs. Those dirty, filthy elves coming over here, coming into, taking our jobs and our women and acting like they own the feckin' place. You could have him kind of stirring the pot and stirring that sort of political intrigue. that's going on, and, you know, building a bit of a name for himself. And then when Queen Miriel comes back, she could be just walking into a complete political minefield, and maybe the things have changed. He could have turned the people against her a little bit. But I don't know. I don't know if she's just going to go back and get a bigger army, but we clearly need to start establishing that Ar-Pharazôn stuff, whether they're going to do the whole thing where he forces Miriel to marry him, because we haven't really had a lot of scenes with them together or establishing who they are. Ar-Pharazôn feels very weak in comparison to how he is in the book, who's like this mad king. Just character assassination after character assassination, isn't it? This is what I mean. We're 8 episodes into this thing, 8 hours, and I don't feel like any of these characters that are actual pivotal characters to the lore have been developed in any way, shape, or form. We don't really have a grasp on anything. We still have that storyline of Ar-Pharazôn's son who set fire to the ships. Are we going to follow up that storyline? Isildur has a sister who's done absolutely nothing in this series so far. It's just, yeah, it's a lot of stuff, isn't it? There's also the moment, of course, Halbrand, and I can't remember who commented earlier, but about the ridiculous journey that Halbrand's now got to make. He's got a festering wound and he needs elvish medicine, but yet he just gets on a horse and he's absolutely fine and just triumphantly rides away. They cheer for their king, the king of the north, you know, the king of the Southlands. And Galadriel says the term, this wound needs elvish medicine, which again is another appropriated dialogue from Fellowship of the Ring, where Frodo's been mortally wounded. And then Arwen says, Aragorn says, sorry, you know, he needs elvish medicine. Oh, we're 6 days from Rivendell. He'll never make it. All of that stuff, exactly the same. Nothing means anything anymore. Characters can just survive. There's no tension. There's no suspension of disbelief. There's no one at any point who's in peril, because they're always going to make it out of it. We've got 2 big story points to talk about right now, and that'll do it. At this point, you have King Durin, who has the leaf in Khazad-dûm, and he sees that it's been rejuvenated, and he casts it into the chasm, and conveniently, it dodges all of the rocks and makes it all the way to the bottom of the deposit, where the leaf sets on fire. We get our dramatic reveal of Durin's Bane, the Balrog of Morgoth in its full glory. Where do I begin? Well, I can't say I was surprised because it was in the trailer, and I had a problem with it when it was in the trailer. It's clearly just in there, you know, to elicit a sense of member berries, of nostalgia, to try and get Tolkien fans in, or to get them halfway interested in what's going on. But if they're a diehard Tolkien fan and they know, even remotely know the lore a little bit, they realize how absolutely ridiculous it is that the Balrog is being unearthed at this point. If it's completely woken up and fired up, do we think that the next episode is going to be the complete destruction of Khazad-dûm? I think they're going to do it. I honestly think we're going to have the destruction of Khazad-dûm. And then in season 2, we're going to have, following on from the storyline of Disa, who's basically turned into Lady Macbeth and is conspiring with her husband and saying, like, oh, you know, when he's not king, when your father's not king and he's out the way, we shall rule. And we will do things our way. Do you think they're going to do some kind of storyline where the Balrog of Morgoth completely desolates Khazad-dûm, and then season 2 is going to be Disa, maybe even King Durin dies during the whole Balrog onslaught, but Disa and Prince Durin make it out. He's kind of the new king. He asserts himself as king, and then in season 2, he's going to try and rally the dwarves together. She mentions in this episode about the seven kingdoms of the dwarves, that they could get their support. Do you think they're going to do that whole kind of basically what Balin tries to do? Do you think they're going to recreate that he's going to try and lead an onslaught to try and repel the Balrog? Is he going to strike a deal with the elves? Is he going to say, look, if you elves help us, one of your high king elves in the past took down a Balrog when they countered each other over the Silmaril. Elrond, if you bring an army for me and help me fight this Balrog and help me reclaim Khazad-dûm, you can have all the Mithril you want. It's so rushed, and the fact that this should happen in the Third Age, and clearly when the Balrog was woken up, it was just because they were mining too deep and they mined too far. Maybe they were like tap, tap, clunk, and then this eye awakens, and it's a Balrog of Morgoth that completely destroys everything. not the fact that the Balrog is woken up just by a bit of littering. So I don't know. I guess my question to you guys is, do you think now that we've seen that shot that they're going to pay that off in the next episode and the Balrog's going to be running amok? Or do we think that they're going to just keep that away until next series? If that's the case, I think they've just ruined the reveal, and I think they've just completely shot their bolt way too quickly. And also the fact, I've mentioned this before, probably in my trailer reaction when we first saw it, I hate the fact that the Balrog looks exactly the same as the Peter Jackson movies. I wish this series would just pick a state where it is. I don't know if this is meant to be a prequel to the movies, purely because the Balrog looks identical to Peter Jackson's version, or if this is meant to be its own thing. I guess because there are so many contradictions to the lore at this point that we have to infer this is doing its own thing. And if that's the case, then come up with a new design for the Balrog. Do your own thing. But we've got things like Narsil is seen in the background during the Palantir scene. We've got the Balrog of Morgoth. We've got, we've got all this repurposed dialogue from the films. It's kind of half in and half out, and it really annoys me that they've gone with an identical design from the Balrog, because you can clearly tell they've done that just to try and go for those nostalgia beats that, I'm sorry, just ain't working for me. And this is coming from a guy who thinks the Balrog is one of the coolest on-screen CGI monsters of all time. Even now, over 20 years on, I still get chills. The CGI still looks phenomenal, way better than this show. And this show had way more of a budget than Lord of the Rings. How many billion per episode or whatever it was? Where's the money? Where is it on screen? Because I'm sorry, the Balrog just doesn't look that good. It doesn't look as good as CGI from 20 years ago on a fraction of the budget. When you get that Balrog reveal in Fellowship of the Ring, and Gandalf kind of looks up, and this whole swarm of smoke just lifts itself into the air, it lands, it strikes that pose, and just, if you've got surround sound, or if you've seen it in the cinema and that Balrog just roars in the camera, it's earth-shaking. And I just lose my shit every single time I see it. It's phenomenal. And this just looks, you just took the words right out of my mouth right there. The Balrog somehow looks cheap. $1 million. Yeah. It's just, I mean, look at it. Just look at it. Like, hang on, if I bring up the... I've got it as a background right here. If I just take myself off camera real quick, I don't know. So like, there we go. Like, it's just, I mean, I suppose it looks fine, but comparatively to what we've seen, it just looks, as you said, it looks cheap. It doesn't look good at all. So my notes there are Balrog reveal with a bunch of facepalm emojis, and then the final note that I have with a bunch of facepalm emojis is the Mordor reveal name in the corner. So you've got Adar and the orcs, and he's like, "What shall we call this land?" You could have just left it at that. And I swear, I don't know if I was the only one who's looking for this, because I was like, why is the episode called The Eye? Because we haven't had anything Sauron related. I swear, when you look at Mount Doom, the clouds, like the smoke that's erupting from the mountain, kind of looks like a giant eyeball. That might just be me who was looking for that. I don't know if it's like a Rorschach test, say what you see. I don't know if anyone else had that, or if that was intentional, but it kind of looked like the Eye of Sauron to me. And he's like, what shall we call this land? And he looks up, and then in the corner, you get the very handy text reveal, Southlands, and then it kind of burns up and manifests itself into Mordor. Like we needed that prompt. Just end the episode where he says, what shall we call this land? And he just looks up, smiles. You've got Mount Doom in the background. You've kind of got like an eye symbol in the smoke. We know exactly what it is, cut to black. That's not the origin of Mordor. And I think if I'm going by the lore at this point, Sauron should already be in Mordor, mustering his strength and gathering his forces. Apparently not. Amazon have different ways of doing things, clearly. Tarelenian says New Zealand released some info that put it at about 60 million per episode, but the producer denied it was that much. The point is that it's a lot of money, and it's a hell of a lot more money than they had to work with. Even probably adjusted for inflation, they've probably got way more money than the original Lord of the Rings budget had. And Lord of the Rings stands the test of time. It still looks phenomenal. It still looks comparable to stuff that's come out today. If not better in some respects, just purely because it's a great blend of CGI and practical. I think that's kind of the end of my notes. So I'm just going to really quickly drag up back up to the top, and just any comments that I can see that I haven't mentioned. I'm sorry, guys, that I haven't just been clicking the comments all the way through. I love that you guys are interacting, though. This honestly means the world to me. It's wonderful. I love doing these live streams. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in for the full length of it. Kept the comments coming in. This is great. This is what I absolutely love. So I'm just going to see real quickly. Oh, so Sam, going back to Sam Oakes, where he says, what am I going to do for Tolkien content in between seasons 1 and 2? Yeah, so I've heard that it's going to be at least 2, maybe 3 years before we get season 2 of this show, which should hopefully kill any kind of anticipation that the show has from some of its fans dead in its tracks. Shows that kind of go away for a long time and then come back and don't keep that momentum going from year to year, I think that will kind of kill this show off. As far as we know, they've got 5 seasons they need to do, and that are all sort of like legally contracted and bought and paid for, probably. But I don't know if that means that the shows are greenlit. We know that season 2 is already in production. I've also heard rumors that they're going to be introducing the character of Círdan the Shipwright. So get ready for our boy Círdan to just be completely eviscerated in season 2. They're probably going to bring Celeborn into it and just ruin his character as well. So we know that season 2 is happening, and it's filming in the UK because they couldn't be allowed to film in New Zealand. Although I did hear rumors that they might be allowed to head back there now, but I'm not sure if that's true. We're getting season 2. Like it or not, we're getting season 2. Whether we'll get season 3 and 4, I don't know. But the fact that the showrunners are coming out and calling all the fans patently evil for hating the show, it shows that our voices are being heard, which is really good. They're taking notice of it, and they're scared. They're running scared. The fact that Amazon are trying every tactic in the book, tactics that have been tried by Disney many times. First, they come out with the fact that, oh, you know, we're not progressive. We're racists. We're ists. We're phobes. We're not ready for change. You know, all of these things, they started with that. That shit didn't fly with us. Now they're going with the fact that, oh, we're pure evil. And all of these things, just tearing the fans down. That's always the first hallmark of this shit. Disney did it with Star Wars. Disney are doing it with some Marvel products. They always go for the fans, and it's always the fans' fault, not their own, for producing terrible, horrible fucking content that's just completely woke or whatever you want to call it beyond belief. It's not because they're putting out a terrible product. You're the problem. And I fucking hate that shit. I hate when they do that. And it's always the hallmark signs that they've got no more arguments. They've got no other swords to lean on. That's it. And they're doubling down. They're running scared, honestly. Like the audience reactions and everything like that. They're taking notice of that, I guarantee. This was not the hit. This was not the walkaway hit they wanted or needed this to be. And I think there'll definitely be a big shake-up come season 2. Lord Oakenshield said to Nikki, the only way to enjoy this series is to not take it seriously. Yep, that is the only way, and that's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. But even still, even if you divorce it from Tolkien, as I've mentioned before, it's still really bad television. It's not a good fantasy series. It's not well written. It's not well acted. It looks both... I think Drinker mentioned this, that it looks both overly produced and yet cheap at the same time. It's this weird kind of middle ground with it. The pacing is awful. The characterization is non-existent. And the characterization we do have is a complete slap in the face to Tolkien and the fans, the hardcore fans that you're meant to be getting in to tune into this show. So it's just fucked from the off, really. Tyrellenia mentions that Adar is okay, if also law-breaking. I agree with that. He's my favorite character by a country mile in the show so far. He's an intriguing character. He's very well acted. I really enjoy the actor. I just wish he had better material to work with. But certainly out of the whole roster of the characters that we've got, he is the one that I'm actually intrigued to find out more about. He's a very interesting character. He's played very well. And even though the quality of this show is terrible, he is strangely compelling in a weird way. So yeah, I'll agree with that completely. He's a character, put it like this, Adar is a character that I could totally see in the Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor games. Lord Oakenshield says at this point, I think Galadriel is Sauron. You're not the only person I've seen that says that. She says it multiple times, there is a darkness in me. There is a tempest in me, and it will not be quelled by you, Regent, or whatever she says. Just Yeah, Tar says even Miriel was not blinded from the initial blast. It was from the burning building. Yeah, it's just no consistency. If they never told us Galabro's name, I would honestly believe she is the antagonist. Yeah, they think that this is how you write empowering women. They think that she's a go-getter. They think that she's headstrong and practical, pragmatic and strong and courageous. They think they're writing a character like that, but when you break every single sum of that character's parts down, she's just a thoroughly unlikable, deceitful, manipulative, obnoxious character through and through. Let's see if there's anything else. Bath Time with Vaughn gave the episode 3 out of 10. He says, struggled with it. It was crap. Halbrand with a mortal injury whizzing about on a horse. And that Galrog, that Balrog, it could be a Galrog, actually. It could be a female Balrog for all we know. That Balrog was bar furious over that leaf. Yeah, he was. Bath Time says that I hope they have Sauron legging it about with his Celebrimbor banner. Probably. More quotes here from Tyrellenion. They buried the body of Felagund upon the hilltop on his own isle, and it was clean again. And the green grave of Finrod, Finarfin's son, fairest of all the princes of the elves, remained unviolated until the land was changed and broken and founded under destroying seas. Oh, God, that language at the end. Goosebumps, literally, not even joking, goosebumps. Oh, just the poetry of the language. Tyrellenion, the grave robber. Yeah, she just steals that dagger away straight away, doesn't she? Bath Time says that's not even Nora's real mum going off with Lenny Henry, is it? I thought they said her dad had remarried. I'm guessing he had to have married because let's just say the gene pool is not strong with this one. So I'd find it very unlikely. It's the same thing that I have with Miriel and her father. Bath Time says, worryingly, I saw on Twitter that Anatar isn't even mentioned in the appendices. That's going to be a problem if that's the case, because that's pivotal to the Rings of Power, the namesake of the show itself. So I guess we'll see. We'll see. Scrolling through. I think I'm all caught up pretty much. Arondir established that elves don't have healers. They have artisans that heal the spirit or some such by making works of art to contemplate. Ecthelion says, I just hope they don't bring Glorfindel into this awful series. He will not be happy. Yeah, I guess. Well, as I mentioned, anything is possible. At this point, nothing would surprise me. Nothing. It seems like we're all in agreement that Adar is the best character. Completely agree. I think Gil-galad is Sauron at this rate. We need to do that. We need to create like a list of people that Sauron could be. Tyrellenion says, Tempest line stolen from Kate Blanchett in Elizabeth the Golden Age used Hurricane instead of Tempest. I never even... I don't think I've seen that film, actually, but that's a great catch. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they used that on purpose. G. David T, thank you for joining us. I am almost about to sign off, so you have almost 2 hours of a video to watch. It's been a very fun video tonight. Really great discussions across the board. G. David T says, all right, everyone. I enjoyed it for production value, practical effects, and above all, introducing any new potential to liken fans to him in any way. Cheers. No, thank you for tuning in and sharing your opinion, dude. You know, there are elements of the production value, I guess, that all right. Very few. Very, very few. But yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm going to round off because I need to be up for work in 7 hours. So I need to get myself to sleep because I am powering down and we've gone on for quite a while tonight. I don't know how long we're going to go on for the finale, but next week is indeed the final episode that we are talking about. So I will be going live once again at 11 p.m. British Standard Time for episode 8, the finale of season 1 of Rings of Power. That's going to be the 14th of October, and I hope you guys can all tune in for it. It's going to be fun. I might be drinking. I don't know what's going to befall us. Every single episode surprises in some way, and just when we think it can't get any worse, it somehow gets worse. We're going to have like all the plot threads that are going to lead into season 2. There's going to be a lot to talk about, and I'm going to speak with Everything in Middle Earth as well. Love chatting with him tonight. It was a really, really great experience to have someone to bounce off of. I'm going to see if he's free as well, because it'd be really fun to get his insight into the episode as well. So thank you to everyone that's tuned in. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, TV reviews, discussions like these, and live streams. Because you guys stuck around, I am now going to announce what you can expect to see from next week. And for more information on that and the times that I am going to go live, give me a follow on Twitter. It's the best way to stay updated with all of my content and everything that's going on. And also, if I'm at the cinema, if I'm checking out a movie, whatever's on my mind, I will also tweet about that. So yeah, give me a follow on there. Of course, I want to say a big thank you to Everything in Middle Earth. If you haven't done so already, go and check out his channel. The link is going across the bottom of the screen right there. That's youtube.com/Everything in Middle Earth. Great channel, loads of Middle Earth, quality content. And as he mentioned, he's uploading the appendices. He's got a whole bunch of other videos on there that you can go back and check out too. And we need it more than ever. We need as many people to witness and bear witness the glory that was Peter Jackson's trilogy and the care and love that went into the production of those films. And, watch this space. If me and him can get some more collaborations off the ground, I might even be over at his channel at some point too, if he will have me. And I'd love to be a part of it. Give them a follow on Twitter as well. You can find him at EI Middle Earth. That's EI Middle Earth. Links to all of his socials are in my video description as well. Next week, we have a couple of videos, a couple of series concluding, but next week's going to be absolutely stacked for content. So you will next find me on Tuesday evening. That's going to be, I've moved the time forward a little bit, so I'm going to be live on Tuesday, the 11th of October at 11 p.m. British Standard Time. Going to be finishing out the James Bond reviews with No Time to Die. I have so much to say on that film. I have very strong opinions on No Time to Die. So I'm going to be rewatching that film in preparation for that review, and that will conclude very nicely the 60 years of Bond retrospective that you can find in the playlist on my channel. The day after, I'm going to be joined with, hopefully, by JX Editor once again for our weekly Andor review series. We're going to be reviewing episode 6, which will be the final part of this next three episode arc they've been telling. I'm weirdly intrigued by Andor, even still. It's not the most entertaining show, and I think it's got a long way to go before it wins me over, but it's got something about it that's got me intrigued. That's going to be Wednesday night, the 12th of October at 11 p.m. Also, as I just mentioned, Friday night, I'm going to be going live at 11 for the Rings of Power episode 8. And, so that's going to be both Bond finishing and the Rings of Power finishing next week. But also that weekend, I'm going to be starting a new retrospective, which I will tease you guys with right now, if you bear with me. I'm going to be doing a James Cameron retrospective. So each week, I'm going to try and shoot for some Sundays, but when it gets towards Halloween, I might have to shuffle some days around. I'm going to be reviewing every single thing that James Cameron has directed, from his first few films, his short film, Xenogenesis, kicking off with Piranha 2: The Spawning. We're going to go through all of his main films as well. Terminator, True Lies, The Abyss, even his documentary films as well. We're going to be covering everything each week in anticipation for Avatar 2 in December. So that's going to be my next big retrospective series following James Bond. And I'll be going live for that this upcoming Sunday. James Cameron retrospective, kicking off with Xenogenesis, which was his first little 12-minute short film. And I'm going to combine that with Piranha 2: The Spawning. So a double whammy review, Sunday the 16th of October at the slightly earlier time of 10 p.m. British Standard Time. I'm really looking forward to revisiting those films, some of my favorite films of all time among, Aliens, Terminator, Terminator 2. It's been a long time since I've seen True Lies, and I actually have never seen The Abyss. So there will be, or indeed Xenogenesis or Piranha 2. So there will be some first-time reviews on those as well. Very interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to it and just charting the progression of James Cameron as a director. So that's all of the stuff coming out for next week. Thank you very much. G. David T says that he's subscribed. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. Also, Ecthelion of the Fountain, you've also subscribed. Please spread the word if you think that anyone might be even remotely interested in this channel or Tolkien content or any of the content that I've mentioned. I'd really appreciate it if you could share it, spread the word as we build this community. I absolutely love this. You're surrounded by excellent and admirable fans tuning in each week, and I love it. I love engaging with you guys, and thankful that there's some people out there that will quite happily listen to me prattle on for over 2 hours. So thank you once again. You people are great, and you're the reason that I do this. So I'm going to bid you all a very fond farewell, a good night, a good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're coming at me from in this wide and wonderful world. And I will see you guys next week for more content. Take care, everyone. Stay excellent.